Hey everyone, Chase from Alphatone Audio back again today, and what I want to talk about is the RJM Music Technology Mastermind PBC 6X. It's an absolutely fantastic MIDI controller and audio loop switcher. It is an absolutely feature pack, and it has all the I/O to go along with it. Now, one of the things you need to know is if you're going to invest in one of these is that the jacks on here are very, very tight, and if you want to make sure that you utilize everything this unit has to offer, you're going to have to make sure that your cables and the associated plugs are the right size. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to start off with a couple of the popular choices in pancake plugs. So we have the very popular square plugs, the SP400 and the SP500. Again, they fit perfectly, or they have the exact same dimensions every single way, except for the 500 has a slightly larger exit hole. And then on the TRS version, you have the 550S. So a couple things to know about the square plugs. As you can see right here on the bottom row, they actually extend past the bottom of the unit. Now, and that's just the plug. If you actually have the patch cable with cable coming out, you can see even if at a 90-degree angle, you're going to have to leave a little bit more clearance. By my measurement, it's about a ½ an inch. So if you're going to put this on a flat board, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to raise the whole unit up a little bit. If you're on a pedal train, you can always just take the back of this and just run it right up to a rail, and everything will just like drop down between the rails, and you'll be fine. On a flat board, you're going to have to use something like this, which is just super low-tech, fancy, black painted appearance boards you get at like the big box hardware store with some dual lock on it. Again, just like a couple of those across the bottom. Like I said, you want to raise this about a ½ an inch up, or maybe even like 3/8, depending on how much you like to kink your cable. Get it up off the surface of the board just to make sure that you have enough clearance. Don't sweat that idea. People raise pedals up on pedal boards like all the time. It's not really a big deal. Just do what you got to do if you want to use the square plugs on there. Okay, and again, the thing with the square plugs, you can actually use them for both rows, but just as they stick out below the bottom edge, they will also stick out on the top edge a little bit. So you'll just have to make sure that you're okay with those cables coming up. If you tend to like stomp on this like quite a bit, you just want to make sure that you're not really stepping on that, because that's definitely going to shorten the lifespan of your cable a little bit. Now, if you do end up going with a setup like this on the top row, you can have a square plug below, so you have a cable coming out. This cable coming out of the top is just going to come up. It's going to do a little 180, and then you're actually going to have to kind of get everything plugged in a certain sequence. This other one is just going to come and it's going to go right on top, and there's plenty of room between the back of these square plugs and the face of the unit for that cable to come down, and that's what it's going to look like, and you just kind of continue it all the way down. Let's go ahead and talk about 1/4 inches now, and I'm going to focus exclusively on the stubby 1/4 inch plugs. And I did a video a while back I'll put a card to, which is called stubby 1/4 inch plugs, just to show the massive size difference between these stubby versions and a regular guitar plug. And you're definitely going to want the stubby versions anytime you work with a loop switcher, because it saves you at least an inch of depth on your pedal board. So the first one's up. The obvious choice, I think, again, are the square plugs, the SPS4 and the SPS5. Again, identical in every dimension except for the exit hole. It's larger on the 5 than it is on the 4. And they do have the integrated strain relief where the screws tighten down onto the outer jack of the cable. We have the Switchcraft 380. No strain relief on this. I've said it quite a few times. I don't really think you need a ton of strain relief on your pedal board unless you just have cables like flying everywhere and they're prone to getting caught on stuff. As long as everything is like relatively tucked in, I don't think you really have a huge chance of getting a cable tucked in, but you know your rig and your onstage behavior better than I do, so use your own judgment. These ones are from Creation Music Company. There's the exact same plug, just one is nickel and one is black. It has a little light bulb on it called the light bulb plug. And these are nice because they come not only with the sleeve, the plastic insulator sleeve, which doesn't want to come out, but trust me, there's a plastic insulator sleeve in there that comes out, and then there's also just standard crimp style strain relief on there, and you just tighten down. So if you want the strain relief, this is a good choice. And then last but not least, we have the G&H offering, and these are sold exclusively through Bestronics or BTPA. And this is, it's two variations. This one actually, I just have one here. They are the MC-1358GH, and then this one is actually the MC-1358GHM. And the difference between the two is the M has a smaller exit hole than the non-M part. This one is 0.18 inches, whereas the other one is 0.3 inches. And they kind of make these to go with like their own in-house cables. So basically it's kind of like the SPS4, SPS5. Like this one is going to be like your 2314 plug, and then the other one's going to be like your 2319 plug. And again, these ones have this standard strain relief in there if you want that. So those are your choices for the TS plugs. And they're all about the same size. There's probably maybe like a 1/4 inch between the shortest one and the deepest one, but that could be the difference between everything fitting on your board or not. So go with what you need. So now let's take a look at the TRS plugs. First up on the TRS plugs, once again, Creation Music Company, same two plugs, the nickel or the black finish. And these are just the same as the other. There's plastic sleeve, and then there's also strain relief on the TRS. And there's those two, and then only one other choice on these that I know of, and once again, these are the G&H plugs, is the MC-3641 and 3641M. And again, the M variation has the smaller exit hole, just 0.15 inches on this one, as opposed to the 0.3 on the bigger one. Now, the important thing on this is, if you're looking at your ring disconnect, your mono to stereo converter, or your insert cables, for the first two, you can use the smaller one, right? Because you only need one cable on those. But if you're going to use the insert cables, you're going to need to get the one with the bigger exit hole on it, because you actually need to have two cables coming out of there, one for the left and one for the right. So make sure, if you're going to be running stereo, that you get the ones with the larger exit hole, because you need to be able to do your insert cables with that. One more jack on the back, which is Midi, and one of my favorite choices for that is the Switchcraft 05DL5MX rotatable Midi plug. And one of the reasons I like it is because you can rotate it to get the cable to come out the way you want. So you can rotate it this way and you still have plenty of room to access the USB and the DC plug. If you're only going to use it for Midi out, one of the other cables that I really like are the One Control Midi hammer cables. They're pretty much the smallest Midi cables or Midi plugs I've seen so far, and they also have the feature where you can actually rotate the cable exit position a little bit. So if you want something that's a little bit shallower than the Switchcraft, then definitely check out those cables. Now, if you want to actually use this, and if you didn't know, the Midi out, it's not just Midi out, it actually functions simultaneously as a Midi out and a Midi in, whereas basically the out uses the 3 pins in the middle for the out, but then it also takes the 2 side pins, and you can actually wire that as a Midi in. And that's the case, you have to build your own or get one. You'd want to use one of these, and there you can actually get some really small ultra thin Midi cable from BTPA, so you can actually run 2 different cables into there, so you can get your Midi in and your Midi out going at the same time. Here we are with everything loaded up with the G&H straight plugs. This is probably my favorite arrangement. The G&H plugs, they're expensive and they're heavy, but the quality is there. They're really great, solid parts. Now again, you don't have to use the straight TRS plugs on this. You could use the pancake plugs, the SP400s or the SP500s, and mix in the 550Ss wherever you need the TRS plugs. The thing about the 550Ss, they're great for, like I said, the ring disconnect or the mono stereo or any of the, say like the expression or the foot switch or any of that kind of stuff, the function switch on there. And I typically use these with the Mogami 2552 microphone cable. It fits in there really well. But again, if you need to use the insert cables and you have to have 2 individual channels coming out of there, I haven't found a cable that I really like yet where I can actually put 2 strands into the 550S, just because the hole is just not that big. So if you really just want to go with like a uniform look, I think you're going to have to pass on the pancakes and go with the straight plugs. And again, the SPS4, SPS5 straight plugs are perfectly fine. I do like the, if you need a lower cost option, these are the cheapest of the bunch, and they're also the lightest, but they do have the strain relief, and you can get them in different finishes if you want. Just like the SPS4, SPS5 do come in nickel or black finish. So you do have a few choices on how you can get this thing wired up and how it looks when you're done. So that's all I have for this one. I hope this is helpful. If it was, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you next time.